The story begins with our female lead, Wanchu, who is kicked out of her uncle and aunt's house. They tell her, "Your parents borrowed money from us, and now that they're dead, all their assets, including their company and house, belong to us." Wanchu walks down the road, lost in thought, wondering why this happened to her. She sits by the side of the road, feeling hopeless. Just then, our male lead, Qinghui, appears and sees her sitting alone in the dark. He approaches her and asks, "Why are you sitting here so late? Go home." Wanchu replies, "My parents are dead and I don't have a home anymore." Qinghui feels bad for her and offers, "Come with me. I'll take care of you." And they goes home together. Now, Qinghui's assistant tells him, "This is the same girl who saved your life years ago." We then see a flashback. Qinghui was badly injured on the side of the road and was about to lose consciousness. It was Wanchu who helped him back then, saving his life. Qinghui's assistant adds, "Her parents passed away just a week ago, and now all their property has been taken by her uncle and aunt." Now after hearing this, Qinghui gets furious. Looking at Wanchu, Qinghui says with determination, "From now on, I'll take care of you." Time passes, and we see Wanchu practicing shooting guns. She is serious about training, and she asks Qinghui's assistant, "When will Qinghui be back? He hasn't been home for so long." The assistant replies, "He'll return tonight." Wanchu is thrilled and runs to the kitchen, telling the housekeeper, "Make something special tonight. Qinghui is coming back." She waits all night, but Qinghui doesn't show up. Just when she's about to give up and go to her room, she hears a noise. She rushes to the door and sees Qinghui staggering inside. He looks unwell and suddenly collapses. Wanchu quickly checks on him and realizes that he's burning with fever and is extremely drunk. As she tries to lift him, Qinghui, in his drunken state, pushes her aside and kisses her. They get very close and things get complicated. The next morning, Wanchu has a dream about Qinghui. In the dream, she is kissing him, but when she wakes up, she feels embarrassed and decides to stay away from him for a while. She packs her bag and prepares to leave, but just as she's about to go, Qinghui shows up. Seeing a love bite on her neck, Qinghui gets furious and asks, "Who touched you?" Wanchu thinks, maybe Qinghui doesn't remember what happened last night. I shouldn't tell him, he'll be too embarrassed. But Qinghui keeps asking, "Tell me who got close to you." When she doesn't answer, Qinghui gets even angrier and orders, "Stay here. Don't leave the house." He tells all his bodyguards to make sure Wanchu doesn't go anywhere. Wanchu tries to escape by jumping out of the window, but when she looks down, she sees 2 bodyguards already waiting for her. Frustrated, she vents her anger by causing chaos in the house, even hacking into Qinghui's company database. Later, when Qinghui returns home, the housekeeper tells him that Wanchu has caused a mess. "She's destroying everything in the house," the housekeeper says. Qinghui's assistant ties Wanchu to a bed and warns her, "Qing will be here soon, and he'll punish you." Wanchu is scared, unsure of what will happen next. Qinghui arrives at the scene, and without saying a word, he starts untying Wanchu's ropes. He tells his assistant, "Give me the medicine." Qinghui gently applies medicine to Wanchu's leg and says, "Now you understand your mistake, right? Don't ever do something like this again. You broke things, destroyed my stuff, and even hacked into my company's database." Wanchu looks at him and asks, "Why are you speaking to me so kindly? I've caused you so much trouble. Aren't you angry with me?" Qinghui answers, "You're very precious to me. These small things don't matter at all." He then picks Wanchu up and carries her downstairs, placing her at the dining table. Wanchu hesitantly asks, "Can I leave the house now?" And, "I'm telling the truth, that mark on my neck is from a mosquito bite, not what you're thinking." Qinghui simply says, "Fine, you can go outside." Wanchu is surprised and asks, "Do you trust me?" Qinghui replies, "No, I don't trust you. But I haven't found the boy who got close to you yet, and you're not telling me. So keeping you locked up won't do any good." Wanchu smiles and says, "You're so nice to me. You really take good care of me." Then she adds, I'll go to college, date someone, get married in a few years, have kids. What will you do? Keep worrying about me forever? Qinghui gets upset, pulling her closer and says, You want a date? Wanchu quickly responds, No, I was just saying it. It's not true. Qinghui, still serious, warns her, If you even think about dating someone, I'll break that boy's legs. In the next scene, Wanchu is in the kitchen drinking water. She tells Qinghui, I was just getting some water, and then I'm going to my room to sleep. But Qinghui stops her, lifts her, and gently sits her on the sofa. He says, You shouldn't walk around the house without slippers. And never sleep with wet hair. What if you catch a cold? He begins drying her hair and adds, If you keep behaving like this, no boy will ever want to be with you. Wanchu gets annoyed and says, What are you trying to say? Am I not beautiful? I'm kind too. Whenever I post something, boys always reply. I know a lot of boys like me, and I'm still single because you're too strict and don't let me have a boyfriend. We then see a flashback where Qinghui is teaching Wanchu how to shoot a gun. He also teaches her about computers and is amazed at how much she has grown in such a short time. The next morning, Wanchu, feeling mischievous, goes to Qinghui's room. She finds him asleep in his chair. She tries to wake him up, but when he doesn't respond, she grabs a paintbrush and starts drawing funny doodles on his face. She thinks to herself, Yesterday my uncle yelled at me. I'll make Qinghui laugh with this. Just as she's finishing, Qinghui's assistant walks in and says, What are you doing? Stop right now. The sound wakes Qinghui up, and when he sees the drawings, Wanchu quickly hides under the table. Qinghui, amused but slightly annoyed, asks, Why are you hiding under the table? Come out. Wanchu, scared, says, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I won't do it again. Qinghui, smiling a little, says, Come out, it's okay. Wanchu shyly says, You're not going to scold me? Qinghui laughs and says, Wow, you made such a cute drawing. Why would I scold you for something so creative? His assistant also agrees, Yeah, it's actually a pretty good drawing. Wanchu, relieved, gets up and says, Okay, I'm late for school. I'm leaving now. Later, we see Wanchu at school with her friend, Zhenmin. Everyone is talking about how smart Wanchu is, especially how well she did in her studies. But someone mentions, but she lost in the computer competition. Just then, another classmate, Dong Xiyu, appears and publicly humiliates Wanchu. You're so good at studying, so how did you fail? Didn't you cheat this time? Wanchu stays calm while Dong Xiyu insults her, but then their teacher walks in and announces, Actually, Wanchu is the reason our college's data was saved from being leaked. She purposely lost the competition to stop a hacker. Everyone is shocked to learn the truth and begins to look at Wanchu with a new level of respect. Wanchu's actions reflect her playful, rebellious side, while Qinghui continues to be protective, albeit with some underlying affection for her. Now in the next scene, Wanchu says to her aunt, Can you take me along? Her aunt agrees and they head out. Meanwhile, Wanchu is talking to her friend, Zhenmin. Zhenmin excitedly tells her that her mom arranged 2 tickets for a party and asks if Wanchu will go with her. Wanchu hesitates and says, No, my family won't let me go. They're really strict. Zhenmin, with a playful smile, suggests, Don't tell them. Just sneak away with me. After some convincing, Wanchu finally agrees. Now at the party, Wanchu and Zhenmin are enjoying themselves when one of Wanchu's seniors, Su, approaches her. He compliments her, saying, You look stunning in that red dress. Just as they're chatting, Dong Xiu arrives and takes Su away. Wanchu and Zhenmin continue talking when suddenly a group of bodyguards enters the venue. Wanchu, curious, asks, Is someone really important coming? Zhenmin tells her, The owner of this building is coming to the party. He's very rich and well respected. As the man walks in, Wanchu is shocked to see that it's none other than Qinghui. Seeing him, she quickly hides behind her friend. Zhenmin notices and asks, Why are you hiding? Wanchu nervously whispers, I'll explain later. Just keep me hidden for now. Soon, Dong Siyu's aunt tries to flirt with Qinghui, but he remains uninterested. She clings to him, irritating him. Qinghui signals his bodyguards to escort her away. He turns to her and coldly says, "I don't like people who flirt with me, especially those who wear red dresses in front of me." Dong Siyu, seeing Wan Chu in a similar dress, points at her and says, "If you kicked my aunt out for wearing red, then you should kick her out too." Wan Chu gets anxious, thinking to herself, if Uncle finds out that I came here without telling him, he'll be upset. What will he think of me? Qinghui, spotting Wan Chu behind Zhenmin, approaches them. He tells Zhenmin to step aside and looks at Wan Chu, surprised. "You look really pretty in that dress." He pulls Wan Chu aside and says, "Why didn't you tell me you were coming here?" Wan Chu, with a cute expression, says, "I'm sorry, uncle. I only came because my friend was alone and she really wanted me to join her." Qinghui, nodding, says, "Fine. Stay here and don't wander around. After the party, I'll take you home." Wan Chu agrees, "Okay, I'll just sit here." The trouble begins. While Wan Chu sits quietly, Dong Siyu secretly drops an expensive jade stone on the floor and accuses Wan Chu of breaking it. "Look what you've done. You broke this expensive stone. Do you know that Qinghui himself bought it?" Everyone starts gossiping, saying that all the paintings and showpieces at the party were bought by Qinghui and that they are extremely expensive. Dong Siyu points at Wan Chu. "She's the one who broke it." Qinghui arrives just as the drama unfolds. Dong Siyu quickly says, "This girl ruined your expensive belongings." Qinghui gestures to his bodyguards. They start destroying the paintings and showpieces in the room. Everyone is stunned, watching as the bodyguards tear everything apart. Qinghui turns to his assistant and asks, "How much is everything in here worth?" His assistant replies, "Altogether, around 830 million. Qinghui, coldly turning to Dong Siyu, says, "You ruined all of this, so now you'll have to pay Wan Chu 830 million for the damages." Dong Siyu protests, "Why are you lying? The bodyguards ruined everything, not me." Qinghui coolly replies, "I learned how to lie from you." He addresses the guests, "None of these items were damaged by my bodyguards. They were all ruined by Dong Siyu." Everyone, knowing how wealthy and influential Qinghui is, believes his words. The guests murmur, agreeing that Dong Siyu is to blame. Qinghui continues, "Wan Chu will decide how many things she wants to ruin. The hotel is hers too. You don't need to say anything." The confrontation. Just then, Dong Siyu's father arrives and starts apologizing to Qinghui. "I'm so sorry. I know my daughter is rude. If she's caused you any trouble, I apologize on her behalf." Qinghui dismisses him, saying, "You don't need to apologize to me. Tell your daughter to apologize to Wan Chu." Enraged, Dong Siyu's father slaps his daughter in front of everyone and yells at her, "What's wrong with you? Can't you behave yourself?" Dong Siyu is humiliated as everyone watches, and the tension in the room is palpable. Shortly after, Wan Chu's friend Jan Man arrives and tells her, "Qinghui is such a great person. He helped you and even taught Dong Xiu a lesson." Jan Man then asks Wan Chu, "Do you know Qinghui from before? What's your relationship with him?" Wan Chu responds, "He's like family to me. He takes care of me." Just then, their senior, Shu, walks over and asks Wan Chu, "Are you and Qinghui in a relationship? Is that why you've been ignoring me?" Shu continues, "Qinghui is a big shot. Sure, he's rich, but he's definitely using you. You should stay away from him." Before Wan Chu can respond, Qinghui arrives and says, "Let's go home." He gently puts a jacket on Wan Chu, then takes off her sandals and replaces them with her shoes. In the next scene, we see Qinghui driving Wan Chu home in his car. As they're on their way, Wan Chu asks, "Why did you suddenly claim at the party that everything is mine, even the hotel?" Qinghui's assistant interrupts, saying, "Actually, Qinghui built this hotel specifically for you." Wan Chu is taken aback, clearly surprised by this revelation. Back at college, the next day, Wan Chu is sitting in class talking to Zhenmin when she suddenly feels severe pain in her stomach and faints. Moments later, we see Wanchu in the hospital where Qinghui is sitting beside her. They talk briefly, and just as Wanchu is recovering, her senior Su enters the room. Qinghui, noticing Su, asks, "Is this the same senior who has been bothering you?" Wanchu nods. Qinghui then whispers in her ear, "I'm just pretending," before kissing her. As Su walks in and sees them kissing, he storms out, enraged. Wanchu, looking shocked, asks, "Why did you do that?" Qinghui smiles and explains, "Now your senior has seen us kissing, so he'll think I'm your boyfriend. If he's smart, he won't bother you anymore." Wanchu's anger. Back in class, Wanchu receives a call from Zhenmin, who shows her a news update. In the news, Wanchu's uncle talks about how, after the death of his brother, there was no one to take charge of the company, so he took over. He also mentions that he had given shares of the company to his brother's daughter, Wanchu. This news deeply disturbs Wanchu, and she remembers how her uncle had thrown her out of the house and left her with nothing. She is furious and decides to leave the class and head home. At home, she becomes even more enraged and begins practicing shooting as a way to release her pent-up anger. As she practices, her mind keeps racing back to the betrayal she feels from her uncle. Eventually, she becomes exhausted and falls asleep. Later that night, Qinghui comes home and is informed by the maid that Wanchu hadn't eaten properly and was in a bad mood. She went to bed early without touching her food. Qinghui, worried, goes to her room and finds her sleeping. He notices that she seems to be talking in her sleep, likely disturbed by a bad dream. He thinks to himself, maybe she's having another nightmare. Qinghui, clearly concerned about her, sits beside her and watches over her as she sleeps, trying to comfort her in his own silent way. As Wanchu continues to sleep, she calls out in her sleep, "Don't go, don't leave me." This surprises Qinghui, who was about to leave, and he hesitates. Instead of leaving, he decides to stay by her side, lying next to her. Qinghui remains beside Wanchu the entire night. The next morning, when Wanchu wakes up, she notices that Qinghui is gone. She asks the maid, "Where is Qinghui?" The maid replies, "He made breakfast for you and went to the office." Wanchu, touched by his care, takes a photo of the breakfast and adds some playful emojis before sending it to him. Qinghui sees the message and smiles, happy to see that Wanchu appreciates his gesture. Later, Wanchu goes out shopping, her mood lighter after the sweet moment with Qinghui. While browsing, she unexpectedly runs into her sister, Lei, and her fiancé, Ma. Lei immediately mocks Wanchu with disdain, "What are you doing here? A poor girl like you shouldn't be shopping at a place like this." Wanchu, calm but firm, replies, "Is this your shop? Do you own this place? I can shop wherever I want." Lei continues her taunting, "You're still the same rude girl you've always been." Wanchu remains unbothered and doesn't engage with her sister's provocations. At that moment, Zhenmin, Wanchu's friend, comes out of the dressing room in a dress. Wanchu admires it, saying, "That dress looks amazing on you. I'll buy it for you." Just then, a rude sales assistant, overhearing the conversation, sneers, "Do you even know how expensive that dress is? You can't afford it." Wanchu, now visibly annoyed, takes out her credit card and hands it to the assistant, saying, "You clearly don't know how to treat customers. Use this card to pay for it, and by the way, you're getting fired soon if you keep talking like this." As Wanchu proceeds with the purchase, Lei steps in, handing Wanchu an invitation to her engagement party. "Oh no! You must come to my engagement," she says with a smug expression. Wanchu, uninterested, responds, "I don't have time for things like that." Lei, clearly irritated by Wanchu's response, pretends to trip and accuses Wanchu of causing her to fall. Lei, now furious, starts shouting, "I won't let you get away with this," and tries to slap Wanchu. Wanchu steps aside, avoiding the slap. The workers at the shop immediately take Lei's side, blaming Wanchu, saying, "It's all her fault. She made Lei fall on purpose." At this point, the shop manager arrives and recognizes Wanchu. She asks the assistant, "Did you see what happened? Did Wanchu cause Lei to fall?" The assistant, knowing the truth, denies it, saying, I didn't see anything. The manager, sensing something is wrong, instructs the assistant to check the CCTV footage. The truth is revealed. Lei's fall was staged and Wanshu had nothing to do with it. The assistant is forced to admit that she lied and the situation begins to clear up. Later that day, we see Wanshu and Janman. Janman asks her, "You've had too much to drink, haven't you? Are you going home?" Wanshu replies, "Don't worry, my driver will be here soon. You go ahead, I'll get home fine." After Janman leaves, Wanshu walks along the roadside and memories flood her mind. Memories of how her uncle and aunt kicked her out of the house. She feels deeply hurt by this and sits down on the curb. Just then, Qinghuai arrives. Seeing him, Wanshu panics and says, "Please forgive me, I didn't drink much, I only had a little." Qinghuai says nothing and Wanshu continues apologizing. "Promise me you won't scold me." Qinghuai pulls her close and Wanshu starts crying in his arms. To cheer her up, Qinghuai takes her to a beautiful spot where they can see the stunning sky. Wanshu's mood lifts as she admires the view. On their way home, Wanshu twists her ankle. Qinghuai immediately sits down on the ground and says, "Come on, sit on my shoulder." Wanshu protests, saying, "I'm not a little kid anymore." To which Qinghuai responds, "You will always be my little princess." The next day, as Wanshu is heading to school, she's confronted by Muzz. He starts insulting her, saying, "I know everything that happened yesterday. It's all your fault." He accuses her of staging everything to get closer to him, claiming, "I know you're trying to get close to me, but you don't even make as much money as me. Wanshu doesn't need you. She's good enough to get a scholarship." Just then, Qinghuai appears and Muzz asks, "What are you doing here?" Qinghuai coolly replies, "I've invested money in this school, so I can come here whenever I want." He then scolds Muzz, "You said Wanshu is trying to get close to you, but why would she? She's doing much better than you ever will. She doesn't need your attention." Qinghuai then sends Muzz away. In the next scene, we see a meeting at Qinghuai's office. He announces, "I'll reward the best project with money." Muzz is the first to present his project. But when he turns on the screen, a video starts playing of him with another girl. The room is shocked, and Qinghuai asks, "Is this your project?" Muzz's father apologizes to everyone, slaps his son, and says, "I'm taking him home." In reality, it was Qinghuai who made the video to teach Muzz a lesson for bothering Wanshu. As Muzz leaves the office, Lu Yi confronts him and slaps him, saying, "We're supposed to be engaged, but you were with another girl. You betrayed me." She yells at him, and a few girls nearby capture the moment on video. Later, we see Wanshu sitting in Qinghuai's office, enjoying chips while watching a video of Lu Yi and Muzz's fight. When Qinghuai enters, Wanshu quickly hides the chips. Qinghuai, teasing her, tells her to eat them, and Wanshu offers him some, saying, "You should try these, they're really tasty." She then comments, "My uncle is so sweet and handsome." She asks him, "Why are your ears so red?" Qinghuai responds, "You can't just touch anyone's ears like that." But despite his protest, Wanshu playfully touches his ears again. This time, Qinghuai pulls her closer. Wanshu nervously apologizes, saying, "I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I won't do it again." In the next scene, Wanshu tells Qinghuai that her grandfather invited her for dinner. She's confused about why he called her after all this time, as he's never liked her. Qinghuai grows concerned, but Wanshu reassures him, saying, "Don't worry. If you care about me, you can send the driver with me." At her grandfather's house, Wanshu stays quiet, observing her surroundings. She asks her grandfather, "Is this a family dinner? What is Mr. Wang doing here?" Wanshu then adds, "Are you planning to arrange a marriage between me and Mr. Wang? Because Lu Yi's marriage with Muzz has fallen apart." Lu Yi denies it, saying, "There's nothing wrong between Muzz and me." But her mother tells Wanshu, "You're misunderstanding. Mr. Wang is single and looking for a bride, and your grandfather thought of matching you with him since you're both single." Wan Shu, disgusted, replies, "He's old enough to be my father, and you want me to marry him?" She insults Mr. Wang openly, and in response he stands up and leaves angrily. Lu Yi and her mother follow him out. Lu Yi's mother apologizes, saying, "I'm sorry, Wan Shu is very rude, but we need to teach her a lesson. We need to show her that Mr. Wang isn't just any ordinary man." Mr. Wang replies coldly, "I came here to help the Lei family, but after today, I'm not going to help you anymore." Lu Yi's mother says, "Don't worry, Mr. Wang. I have a plan." Lei's mother, determined to ensure that Wan Shu marries Mr. Wang, prepares a sinister plan. She gives Lei the drugs meant to make Wan Shu unconscious, hoping that she can manipulate Wan Shu into marrying Mr. Wang when she is vulnerable. As Lei is on her way to Wan Shu's room with the drug drink, a man suddenly appears and the plan is momentarily interrupted. Later, Mr. Wang steps out of the shower, expecting to find Wan Shu in his bed. However, to his shock, the girl lying there is not Wan Shu but Lei. He is stunned by the sight, and as he approaches her, trying to understand what's going on, Lei's mother, hearing the commotion from outside, assumes Wan Shu must be in the room. She rushes in, thinking that she will force Wan Shu into marrying Mr. Wang, but to her surprise she finds Lei in the bed with Mr. Wang. Soon after, Muji enters the scene and is furious upon seeing Lei with Mr. Wang. He slaps Lei hard, saying, "I never knew what you were doing behind my back." In a fit of rage, he breaks up with her, unable to bear her betrayal. Meanwhile, Wan Chu and Qing Hui are in the car when Wan Chu receives a message from her friend Jan Man. The message contains pictures of a boy, and when Wan Chu smiles upon seeing them, Qing Hui becomes immediately jealous. He snatches her phone and asks, "Why are you looking at this boy's photos? Do you like him?" Wan Chu, trying to ease the situation, admits, "Yes, he looks good." Qing Hui, feeling hurt, responds, "But just yesterday you told me I look the best." Wan Chu tries to explain, "You do look good, but you're mature and wise, whereas this actor is young and hot." Qing Hui, now even more upset, asks, "So you like young and hot boys?" Without thinking, Wan Chu responds, "Yes." This stings Qing Hui deeply, and he angrily leaves the car, walking away from her. Later that evening at Qing Hui's home, he is eating dinner when Wan Chu arrives. Seeing her, he pulls out a chair for her, but Wan Chu deliberately sits in another chair, ignoring his gesture. She eats in silence, and Qing Hui becomes irritated by her coldness but says nothing. After a while, Qing Hui leaves in frustration, but it is clear that his feelings are hurt. Later, he confides in his friend, saying that he is in love with a girl who doesn't seem to reciprocate his feelings. His friend teasingly asks, "Are you sure she loves you?" Qing Hui shows him a message where Wan Chu sent him a heart emoji. His friend laughs and says, "Just because someone sends a heart doesn't mean they love you. You should be careful." Qing Hui, feeling embarrassed, is left to ponder the situation, not sure what to do next. That night, after drinking heavily, Qing Hui stumbles into Wan Chu's room. He sits next to her and, in a moment of misguided courage, kisses her. Wan Chu wakes up and, seeing his drunken state, tries to calm him down. "It's okay, don't worry. I'm here. Go back to sleep," she says, trying to ease his anxiety. The next day, while Wan Chu is talking to Jan Man on the phone, a group of boys confronts her. They threaten her, saying, "We've come to teach you a lesson." As they move toward her, Wan Chu, undeterred, defends herself, effortlessly knocking them down. When she continues to approach them, they beg for mercy, pleading, "We were sent by the Lei family." Hearing this, Wan Chu becomes furious. She quickly walks home, her thoughts clouded by anger. As she enters the house, Qing Hui notices her and asks, "What happened? Why do you look upset?" Wan Chu, hiding her emotions, lies, "It's nothing. I just got a little scratch. I didn't want to worry you." Qing Hui's concern. Later, Wan Chu is lost in thought, but Qing Hui notices the bruises on her hands and legs. He immediately tends to her injuries, wrapping bandages around her. When Wan Chu wakes up and sees what he's doing, she's surprised. Qing Hui gently scolds her, "Why didn't you tell me about this?" I'm here to help you with everything. Wanchu, feeling guilty, says, it's just a small injury. I didn't want to bother you with it. Qinghui, looking serious, replies, even the smallest things in your life matter to me. From now on, you must tell me everything, no matter how small or big. That evening, Wanchu is eating an apple and watching TV when Qinghui walks into the room. He calls her, but she doesn't respond immediately. He comes closer, concerned, and Wanchu, still lost in her thoughts, finally notices him. Wanchu and Qinghui share a silent moment, and it's clear that both are struggling with their feelings for each other, though neither of them is ready to fully confront the emotions brewing between them. Qinghui, not one to stay quiet for long, storms into the kitchen and cuts his finger deliberately, just enough to make Wanchu notice. He knows this is the only way she'll pay attention to him now. When she sees the blood, her face pales and she rushes to him, panic creeping into her eyes. She quickly grabs the first aid kit, frantically trying to tend to his finger. Don't you dare get it wet, okay? She snaps, trying to keep her composure, but the fear in her voice betrays her. Qinghui grins, but I haven't showered. You know I can't let my finger stay like this, right? In the bathroom, as she helps him with the shower, Wanchu's foot slips. She stumbles, and before she can catch herself, Qinghui's arms wrap around her waist. Qinghui's lips brush against hers in an accidental kiss. Wanchu pulls away, her breath shallow, eyes wide with shock. She's not sure if it's anger or something else that makes her heart beat faster, but whatever it is, it's drowning her. You don't get it, she says, trying to keep her voice steady, but it cracks. Was it a mistake? Later, as Qinghui drowns himself in alcohol, his mind races. He can't stop thinking about the kiss, about how close she was to him, about how much he wanted to pull her in deeper. He needs to talk to someone, and his friend is the first one he turns to. Have you proposed yet? His friend asks casually. But Qinghui's mood darkens instantly. No, he mutters. She's too young. If I told her how I feel, she'd run away. I know it. His friend chuckles, then goes serious. If you like her that much, you need to make her feel it, make her want you. Meanwhile, Wanchu's mind is in chaos. Her friend Janman has sent her a nightgown and Qinghui caught her opening it. Is this for you? Qinghui had asked, and her face flushed red. She quickly shoved the nightgown back into its box, unable to meet his eyes. Her phone rings, Janman again. Did you get the package? She asks eagerly. Yeah, it's here, Wanchu mutters, sounding disinterested. Janman is relentless. You know, you'll have to get closer to him if you want him to notice you. This nightgown is your ticket. You'll have to wear it. Make him see you as more than just a kid. Wanchu feels her stomach twist. At that moment, Qinghai arrives and Evanshu, upon seeing him, tries to leave. But Qinghai pulls her back. Qinghai gets very close to Evanshu, but she says, no, don't do this, and walks away. Evanshu gets distressed on her bed, thinking about what just happened. She wonders how she will face Qinghui now and feels very embarrassed. Soon, Auntie arrives and tells Evanshu to come and eat. Evanshu replies, I'm not hungry, you go ahead. In the next scene we see Qinghui sleeping, and he dreams about Evanshu wearing the nightgown that Jamman gave her. In the dream, Evanshu kisses him. Meanwhile, Evanshu goes to Auntie and asks where Qinghui is. Auntie replies that Qinghui is still asleep and hasn't gone to the office yet. Distressed, Evanshu goes to Qinghui's room and wakes him up. Qinghui becomes extremely embarrassed and blood starts to come from his nose. He feels awkward seeing Evanshu and leaves. In the next scene, Jamman takes Evanshu to a bar where girls can take a guy for the night. Evanshu tells Jamman that she doesn't think it's a good idea and that they shouldn't go there, but Jamman insists and Evanshu reluctantly goes. At the bar, a boy is singing and all the girls are enjoying. A little while later, some boys come on stage and start dancing. Meanwhile, Qinghai is getting upset, wondering where Evanshu has gone. He calls his assistant and asks him to find out. The assistant calls back and informs Qinghai that Evanshu is at the bar. This news makes Qinghai very angry. After the dance finishes, the boy who was singing goes on his knees and asks Evanshu, "Will you come with me?" At that moment, Qinghui arrives and Evanshu gets scared, saying, "It's not what you think." Qinghui doesn't listen to her and grabs her, taking her away. Jamman tries to stop him, saying it's not Evanshu's fault, but Qinghai doesn't listen to her and takes Evanshu home with him. Qinghui takes Evanshu to his room and sits her on the bed. Qinghai, still angry, begins to drink. He throws his jacket aside and starts unbuttoning his shirt. Qinghai ties Evanshu's hands with a handkerchief and gets closer to kiss her. Slowly, Evanshu starts to take off her shirt, but she screams and says, "I'm scared." Hearing this, Qinghai feels embarrassed and backs off. He apologizes, saying, "I'm sorry, I drank too much and got angry. It won't happen again." Evanshu reassures him, saying, "It's okay, I know you were drunk." Qinghai, embarrassed, leaves the room, telling her to sleep. The next morning, Qinghai's assistant and auntie tell him, "Don't be too hard on Evanshu. She's only 20 and her skin is very delicate. Don't hit her." Qinghai angrily asks, "Do you think I would hurt anyone?" They both deny it. In the next scene, Qinghai is at the office working when one of his employees comes to him with some papers that need his signature. After signing them, the employee leaves. Qinghai calls him back and asks, "Have you ever proposed to anyone?" The employee replies, "No, girls propose to me." Qinghai gives him an angry look. The employee then asks, "Are you planning to propose to Evanshu?" Qinghai replies, "Yes." The employee suggests, "If you want to win her over, you need to make her feel bad about herself, and she'll slowly come to you." A little while later, Qinghai goes home, takes a cold shower to get a fever, and hopes that Evanshu will come close to take care of him. The next scene shows Evanshu at home, and Auntie tells her that Qinghai is sick. Evanshu rushes to him and finds he has a high fever. She asks Auntie to call the doctor. As Evanshu holds Qinghai's hand, he says, "Will you stay with me?" Evanshu says, "I'm not going anywhere." Qinghai says, "But you went out yesterday and spent time with other boys." Evanshu reassures him, saying, "No, that's not true." Qinghai says, "I don't like it when you get close to other boys. Promise me you won't go near anyone else. All boys are bad. Stay with me." The doctor arrives and tells Qinghai's condition will improve in 2 to 3 days. He gives Evanshu medicine to take care of him. Evanshu stays up all night looking after Qinghai. The next morning, when Qinghai wakes up, he finds Evanshu isn't there. He quickly runs downstairs, where he finds Evanshu with food in her hands. Seeing him, she hides the food. Qinghai asks Auntie, "What's going on?" Auntie explains, "Evanshu woke up early and made breakfast for you." Hearing this, Qinghai is very happy. Evanshu apologizes for burning the food, saying, "It's the first time I made something." But Qinghai eats it anyway. Evanshu gives him a cherry, telling him, "Eating burnt food will improve your taste." Qinghai also feeds her a cherry, but as soon as she bites it, Qinghai takes it from her mouth. Just then, Evanshu's friend Lei calls her. She yells at Evanshu, saying, "You're ruining our company. All the investors have pulled out because of you." Lei's mom gently tells Evanshu over the phone, "Come home and we'll talk. The company was started by your parents, don't you want it to succeed?" Evanshu agrees to meet her. In the next scene, Evanshu visits Lei's mother, who tells her, "Since you got close to Qinghai, he's not letting any investors come to our company. It will ruin us and damage our family's reputation. You should think about it." Evanshu replies, "What will change after marriage?" Lei's mother insists, "Your relationship with Qinghai won't last long. You should get married and settle down." Evanshu responds, "I know what I'm doing. Don't try to tell me what to do." Lei's mom gets angry, saying, "Your parents died 4 years ago and I took over their company. Do you think I can't do the same to you?" At this point, we see Evanshu recording everything on her phone. She deliberately provokes Lei's mom to make her confess everything. Evanshu says, since you kicked me out, I've been living with Qinghai. He's the one who has taken care of me for the past 4 years. Evanshu threatens Lei's mother, saying, what you did to my family, I will never forgive. I will take my revenge. Lei's mother, angry, says, if you try to take our company, I'll never let it happen. Evanshu says, I'm not just taking the company but everything my parents left for me. I'll take it all. In the next scene, Evanshu is sitting at home reading a book when Qinghai arrives. Evanshu tells him, why aren't you buttoning your shirt properly? Qinghai responds, I'm not feeling well and don't have the strength to do it. Why don't you button it for me? Evanshu begins buttoning his shirt but then starts to leave. Qinghai grabs her hand, but in the process they accidentally kiss. Qinghai says, you took advantage of me, to which Evanshu replies, it was just a mistake. Qinghai insists, we need to make things even now. Qinghai pulls Evanshu onto the sofa and starts kissing her. Evanshu kisses him back. After a while, Qinghai lifts her and takes her to his room. The next morning, Evanshu wakes up, looks at Qinghai, and wonders, does Qinghai like me? Soon, Qinghai wakes up, notices a mark on her neck, and offers to apply medicine. But Evanshu tries to leave. Qinghai says, you took advantage of me yesterday. Now, I won't let you leave. Evanshu smiles and says, I know who took advantage of whom. Kunal applies medicine to Evanshu's neck. Just then, Auntie arrives and tells Qinghai that his grandfather and Auntie are downstairs waiting to meet him. Qinghai goes down to find them. Evanshu's grandfather tells Qinghai, I came here to talk about Evanshu. She's a very rude girl, and it would be better if she came with us. Qinghai replies, no, she's fine with me, and I know how good she is. Evanshu overhears their conversation and says, why do you care now when you never cared for me before? Her grandfather then says, it's because of you that our family's name is ruined. Evanshu plays the audio recording where her aunt confesses that she had Evanshu's parents killed. This enrages her grandfather, who slaps her aunt and suddenly collapses. Evanshu's aunt, in anger, tries to stab Evanshu, but Qinghai pushes her aside and she falls. Qinghai then tells his bodyguards, take them both, along with the recording, to the police. In the final scene, Evanshu asks Qinghai to close his eyes. As soon as he does, she kisses him and says, that day, the love bite on my neck was not given by anyone but you, Qinghai. She adds, I heard you say you love me, and I feel the same about you. Saying this, Evanshu runs away. Qinghai stands there, and soon his assistant and auntie arrive, asking him what happened. Qinghai smiles and says, Evanshu told me she loves me too. He then runs after her, and our story ends here.